5 Good Lessons from Bad Bosses. One has happened to everyone at some point in their lives. Perhaps, it was a college kid home for the summer, who assigned you the worst lifeguard shifts at the pool, or a team lead who forced you to remain late on Christmas Eve and then grab credit for your efforts. If you've ever worked a 9 to 5, you've probably met one of the world's Bill Lumberghs, Miranda Priestlys, or Michael Scotts, the archetypal awful bosses who range from absolutely terrifying to sadly inept. There are quite a few of them around. According to research provided to the American Psychological Association, by psychologist and leadership consultant, Robert Hogan, 75% of employees consider their immediate boss to be the most difficult aspect of their job. Working is a natural topic of conversation for me, as a 20-something navigating the early phases of my career. My friends are all in a similar postgraduate, pre-white picket fence stage of life, when we spend the majority of our time and energy on our employment. Most of us have met that boss at some point. The bully, the scapegoat, the manipulator, and so on. We tell war stories over happy hours and, if necessary, over an international phone conversation. After listening to my friends' and colleagues' stories, I have reached the same conclusion. I don't want to be one of them. A bad boss can teach you more. Here are some of the teachable moments. 1. Hiding from responsibility. My boss's lack of interpersonal communication skills, and mastery of passive aggression, made her unfit for a communications position. She avoided all forms of communication with her coworkers, on a regular basis, shutting herself away in her office, and only speaking with them during meetings. When she did pay attention to someone, it was usually to criticize and insult one coworker in particular, whom she blamed for her own mistakes. Teachable moment: if you don't want to be there, or if you don't want to be a good leader, your team will sense it. A healthy, collaborative workplace is always going to be more effective than isolation or arrogance when it comes to leadership and maximizing the potential of your team. 2. Playing favorites. I got along well with one of my first managers, and she made me one of her favorites. We'd have extensive lunches, she wouldn't mind if I left early, and she'd share inappropriate office gossip. The obvious favoritism created a gap on the team between her favorites and those who weren't. Teachable moment. I may have preferences within my team, but I keep them to myself. I know that there will be people with whom I prefer to interact and engage. But I try not to let it affect my judgments, perceptions, or daily actions. 3. Placing the blame on others. To minimize any accountability for workplace problems, my manager would provide edited email summaries of conversations. My coworkers and I started recording talks ourselves, and we eventually had to deal with the matter directly, with the manager's boss. Teachable moment. Thorough documentation can save your job. I maintain all correspondence, including messages, in structured files, and if the circumstances require it, consider approaching top management for help. 4. Leadership deficit. My boss's lack of interest in my ideas and work convinced me that I needed to take control of my life. On paper, he could be the boss, but I had to take charge of planning my projects, setting deadlines, and sticking to them. Teachable moment: some bosses don't care about management, therefore you'll have to learn to manage yourself. This occasionally requires some degree of management. 5. Ignoring criticism. My manager was like a close friend to me for the first year. I enjoyed going to work until I was promoted to a manager position, which did not come easy to me, and for the first time in my life, I felt unsuccessful. Our friendship ended the moment I asked for formal training. She told me I didn't need it, and that every manager at the company learned by doing. I felt ignored and devalued, and I stopped believing in her. Teachable moment. That was a particularly lonely moment for me, and I never want any of my teammates to go through it. I tried to hold myself accountable to my team's input and provide as much enrichment as possible. I believe the best sense of validation comes from being truly heard.